We're going to demonstrate this learning objectives through application using problem 337 in the Inkling book. And we'll make a couple modifications just so that we can get this problem to handle all of the different learning objectives we're trying to accomplish. So basically here we're given a set of information which says that we are a shoe company and that we have a division that actually sells loafers for $60 a pair. And here's what they tell us for 2011. We have actual sales volume. We see we have some variable costs. We subtract the two to get contribution margin. We have some fixed costs, and we subtract that to get the operating margin. So it says that our goal is to increase our profitability by at least 25%. And we have some options to consider in order to do that. So you'll see down in this section right here, we have a number of different options. There are 4 of them that we need to do some what-if analysis to determine which is the best course of action. So before we do that, I think what we need to first look at is we need to actually come up with the units sold. So in 2011, we had $300,000 worth of sales, and we know that each pair of loafers sold for $60. So we need to reformat this because this is no longer in dollars. This should be just a plain old number. So there we see that we have 5,000 set of shoes that were sold, and now we can start looking at how we're going to use the information that's told to us in this data portion 1. So it says that our sales right here are going to remain constant, so we will copy those over. In this scenario, this next scenario says that we will have a decrease in our variable cost, a 20% decrease. So therefore, we will take the variable cost and multiply it by 80%, which gives us what the new number should look like. Let me put some commas in here because otherwise I'm not sure I'm going to get these right. And then we'll copy over our formula for contribution margin. So we know that the contribution margin is sales minus variable cost, and that gives us a contribution margin. I'm just setting up some formatting. And our fixed costs in this scenario, it says fixed costs are going to increase by 15%. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take those fixed costs and we will multiply them by 1.15, which will give us a 15% increase. And then we'll just do our math again here and learn that that scenario will give us an operating income of $85,000. So we're going to go ahead and do this for the next couple scenarios. So again, I'm going to carry this over to units. I'm going to look at scenario 2. In scenario 2, it says, let's see. Now it doesn't tell us that the sales are going to remain the same. So I think we ought to consider that this actually is going to look a little bit different. So if we have, actually, if we read through this, it says that sales are going to increase by 20%, right? Sales will increase by 20%. So we want to take the units that we calculated and we want to increase that by 20%. So we're going to multiply that times 1.2, and that'll give us the new anticipated units. If we take the 6,000 units and we multiply them by the $60 selling price, we will then get a new calculation for our units based on that increase in volume. As a result of this, it says, let's see, okay, so over here in our original problem, it tells us that our variable costs are $25 per pair. So we will take the 6,000 pairs times $25, and that'll give us a new variable cost. Remember, variable cost is going to stay the same per unit, but it will increase in total. So we see that that did happen. Our fixed cost assumption, it says we're going to have $30,000 on a new ad campaign. So our fixed costs are going to increase from the baseline, that $30,000. There we go. And we'll calculate our new operating revenue, our operating income. I'm just going to copy these formats. So all I'm doing is copying the formats. So I'm going to paste special and put those formats right on top. There we go. So we can see under scenario 2, we would have $80,000 in operating income. Let's look at scenario 3. Scenario 3 says we're going to increase the selling price by $10 per unit. Okay. And we're going to, let's see, increase variable cost by $7 per unit because we're using higher quality leather. And that's going to drop our demand by 10%. So we have some interesting things going on right here. Our demand against our baseline is going to drop 10%. So I'm going to multiply that by 90% so I can get that 10% reduction. And then for our calculating selling price, we're going to take these new units and we are going to multiply it by the original $60. And it said that we were actually going to add $10 increase to that per unit, right? So we'll have a new revenue calculation. Again, I'm going to actually just put some, I'll do that. I'm going to copy these formats. I'm going to copy the formats. And I'm going to paste those formats so that I can have my dollar signs and all that business come in. And I don't have to worry about it. There we go. Okay, variable costs. It said that we were going to actually increase that by $7. So again, we have 4,500 units, and we will multiply that by the original $25 a pair, and we're going to add 7. That gives us our new variable costs. Contribution margin is sales minus variable costs, so we'll calculate that. And for our fixed costs, doesn't say anything about that in our new assumptions, so we'll stay with baseline, and we will do our last calculation. So that is what the scenario 3 should look like. Scenario 4, our final scenario. What do we learn down here? In scenario 4, it said that we're going to add a second manufacturing facility, which is going to double our fixed costs and increase sales by 60%. Wow, that's nice. Let's see what happens. So we have our original sales volume of 5,000 units, and we're going to multiply that by 1.6 to get a 60% increase. We now will be selling 8,000 units as a result of this expansion. What else did we learn? Let's see. We are going to keep that at $60 sell price. So we will keep them at the original $60 sell price. Our variable cost also remains consistent at the 25 original in the original problem. I'll add my formatting in just a minute. Our fixed costs said that that was actually going to change because we're putting in that new manufacturing facility. So our fixed costs were going to double. So we'll take this baseline and multiply it by 2. And then we can see our operating income is $80,000 as a result of doing that because of the fixed cost increase. Let me just change up these formats so that they actually look somewhat consistent. And then we can handle that right there. So we've taken care of calculating the what-if scenarios based on these 4 different parameters. And we're going to leave it at that. So the increase in operating, if we looked at all these scenarios, I'm going to insert some lines right here. And I want to know so that I can eyeball this. So if we're looking at the 4 scenarios and we want to know the increase in operating income, again, 2011 is our baseline. So we're going to take this and we're going to calculate our increase, and we will subtract baseline, and I want to make this an absolute value. There we go. And I'm going to divide that by baseline. And again, I'm going to make this an absolute reference. And this should now be a percentage, and let's increase that to 2 decimal points. So from 2011 into scenario for requirement number 1, you could see as a result of doing those things that we've actually been able to increase the operating income by 13%. Let's copy that on over. We can copy it because we have used absolute values. So when we paste this, our pastes will come out just fine since we used absolute reference to the baseline year of 2011. So that is all we needed to get done. This actually should wrap up a further application of those important concepts that we've been working with